Hi everybody, Evan here. Now we're going to walk through a quick website replication. Now, as I mentioned before, replication is one of the best, hands down best ways to practice coding. Honestly, this goes for anything. Have you ever tried to learn a musical instrument? You learn that instrument usually by playing music that other people have written. You do that long before you start composing music of your own, right? Or if you are into art, you learn to draw by drawing what's around you, the physical things that you can see and touch, long before you start sketching from your imagination. And you can always draw from your imagination. You can always make up music. But in order to really hone the skills that make you a better drawer or a better musician or a better painter, you first start with material that's already there, material that's already been created or that is already existent. You draw from a reference photograph, you play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, whatever it is. You start there before you create original content. And in the same way, replicating existing websites is excellent practice. It's an excellent way to hone your coding abilities and really just get your eyes, fingers, and brain used to seeing and dealing with the amounts of code that you are probably unused to dealing with. Okay, so here I've got Codify's very simple logo site. Okay, this is a site that Codify created and we put up here specifically for students to replicate. It's pretty simple. It doesn't look beautiful because it's what's called a theme. This is a website that somebody might use by swapping in their own content, their own text, their own links, their own colors. Everything here is just bland and gray. Think of it like a template for a website in the future. Okay? But we're going to recreate this website. We're going to recreate this theme, this logo website. Okay? To do that, the first thing that we want to do is pull up the source code for this website. So I'm going to right click in the page, open up my inspector, and down here in my inspector we've got elements, we've got styles. I want to click on sources. If I do that and you look over here on the left, well, what we can see is something that looks very similar to our template file structure. Index, image, CSS. Index, CSS. And inside of CSS, main.css. Main.css. The logo site has no image folder, but hey, it has no images. Okay, the file structure that serves this website is identical to ours. That's deliberate. Okay, this is where we're going to go to copy the code. So if I double click on index, that opens up the index.html file for this logo website, and that's the HTML where I copy from. If I double click on main.css, that's the CSS for this logo site, and that's the CSS that I want to copy from. Okay, so I'm going to move my inspector onto the right. I'm going to start with my index. And we're just going to, well, first, to start any new project or folder, you always want to copy your template folder. I'm going to paste mine right on the desktop. Yours might be in your Codify folder. And I'm going to call it Logo Replica. Camel cased. No space between logo and replica, but a capital R. Okay? Logo, capital R, replica. And now that is what I'm going to open in Sublime. With my Sublime window open, I want to be positive that I'm using the correct project folder. It says logo replica up here. It says logo replica up here. So everything should be good. If it says anything else, especially if it says template, you have opened up the wrong folder. Okay, so with that, let's open up my index. And let's open up my main.css. Remember, double click both of these. Okay, if you find that they're disappearing on you, like you can't keep them both open, you are only single clicking. You want to double click on both files in order to open them as tabs like this. Alright, so let's start copying. Let me first open this in my browser and see what we have. We have nothing. That's to be expected. So let's start working through the source code and see this page come together. So there's the doc type. I see that there's this lang attribute inside the HTML element. Well, I'm going to pretend that you know, I'm at the same place as you guys are. So I don't know what that is. I don't know what it's for. I don't know if I need it, but I see it here, so I'm going to copy it. And then I see some other stuff. I see a comment that says character set. So I'm going to copy that. Below that, I see a meta tag that says some gobbledygook. I'm going to copy it. And I see a title comment. And then the title says logo site replication. And we have this other comment, including the favorite icon. I'm literally just copying what I see. And notice I'm not copy pasting. I'm not copying and pasting into this document. I'm actually retyping it. That is the point. Okay? That is the point. Custom CSS is the next comment. Then we have our CSS. We close the head. We have the body. Get rid of this. And what does it say there? It says site wrapper. Okay, well, I finished the head. So I'm going to save, reopen my page, and see if there's any difference. I see nothing. There's no difference, except now it says logo site replication up here in this tab. Okay, it's understandable if there's no difference because all the code we've written so far is in the head. When we want to see code on our page, it needs to be inside of the body element. We know that already. So let's keep going. This site wrapper is where I was, so let's create that div, the class of header. I'm going to close it, and it contains a span with a class of logo. Oh, looks like I skipped something. I did. Div class equals wrapper. And then site logo. Let's close that wrapper before I get any further along and lose my place. Okay. So now I'm here. Site navigation. Div class equals navigation. UL. And inside that UL there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 list items, each with an anchor that says link. So let's create an LI, and inside that LI let's create an anchor. Looks like the hrefs just have a pound sign in there. It says link. I'm going to copy that 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, now I'm going to load my page and see what we have. Not a lot, but stuff is happening. Stuff is definitely happening. Now it looks like we're on the main section. So, I might get a little confused here. Where should the main section go next? Well, I got to be careful here. I really do. Because there's a lot of closing div tags and it's easy to get lost. Well, I see one closing UL tag followed by one closing div tag, and then we start the site main section. So one closing UL tag, one closing div tag, and this is where I'm going next. Okay, so we've got the div with the class of main. I'm going to close it right away. Excuse me, guys. Okay, div with the class of main, close it right away. And inside we have an h1, website title here. And beneath that we have a couple paragraphs. A couple different paragraphs. Now I'm going to just copy that text, okay? I don't want you guys copying code, but if you want to copy all this dummy text in here, that's completely fine. Oh, this is annoying. Alright, let's do it this way. I'm going to copy all of this from the actual website, because that's what we're looking at. Paste, and close my paragraph. So the way this is set up in the code is each of these paragraphs is an actual paragraph element. So I've got an opening paragraph there, but before the lorem, I need a closing paragraph there. I need an opening paragraph here, closing paragraph there. Opening paragraph, closing paragraph, opening, closing, and we're good to go. Let's take a look. Nice. It is absolutely coming along. Alright, so that's the main section. You want to be careful where you're going next, just like last time. Site sidebar. Div class equals sidebar. H2, second header, now this, the format's a little different. The anchors and the LIs are all on the same line. That is completely okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I believe this is in here to simply show you that there's multiple ways of writing the same thing, and it shouldn't throw you off. Your focus should not be on the line breaks and the indents. It should be on the tags. It should be on the angle brackets. It should be on the elements inside of elements. An anchor inside of an LI inside of a UL. Okay, so it looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's take a look. Okay, So this is our HTML coming together. We can see all of our content slowly being generated. None of it's in the right place. None of it looks the way we want it to. But it's here. It is being generated. It is coming together. We're almost done with our HTML now. So after this, we have our site footer. That was simple. And then closing div, closing body. Looks like my indents are a little off. A touch. I'm a stickler for those indents. There we go. Okay, so if you are at this point, hopefully you took your time, you went slowly, and you wrote yourself comments. For example, this was all pretty straightforward, but if I got here and said to myself, why do these LIs and A's look different? I might write myself a comment like that, and that's a comment which I'm going to come back and address. I'm going to look into that a little bit later, or I'm going to pause here and start doing some research. I'm going to look up on Google and see, is it okay to write like this? Is it okay to write like this? Is there a difference? I might want to look into that. That's something I might not understand. I might end up here and be like, what is a span? I might not know what that is. Well, this is an opportunity to write myself a comment so I can come back and look it up on W3 Schools or Google it. I need to identify what a span is. And once I do, once I've given that a try on my own, if I still feel like I'm not sure, or I have an idea of what a span is, but I'm not sure if I'm thinking about it in the right way, I'm not sure if I'm focusing on the right things, well then maybe you reach out to your peers, to your mentor, to your TA. It's an excellent question to ask. Up here at the top, I might be like, what the heck is the favorite icon? It's a perfect comment. Or, what does this do? What is the lang attribute? Okay, and as I write these comments, as you solve them, as you resolve them, as you learn, you might want to come back and say the lang attribute sets the language encoding for the website. EN means English. Okay, so if you looked that up, or if you figured that out on your own, or if you asked somebody, once you learned what the answer to your question is, you want to come back and comment that in as well. Okay, it's an extremely important exercise. I understand the temptation to skip the commenting altogether. I really do. But you will be doing yourself a disservice by doing so. You're going to get more value out of commenting than not. You need to trust us on this. So our HTML is completely done. Completely done. Doesn't look right, obviously, but that's because we have no CSS. So let's move on to the CSS and get this site built. Don't fret if you find that this takes you longer than it does me. Don't forget that I've been doing this for a long time, guys. And I've done this specific exercise many times. So don't worry. It's not a race. It's not a foot race. Just get to the end. Get there comfortably. Get there on your own terms. I do want you to avoid feeling like you need to 100% understand everything, every step of the way. That's a great attitude, and it's a great perspective, and it will absolutely help you later on when you're into the more advanced code, when you're into JavaScript, when you're into professional contexts. But right now, a lot of the questions that you have, a lot of the questions that will come up throughout these exercises will be answered naturally over time. They will organically come to make sense to you. While taking the time and effort to nitpick and focus on every single little thing could derail you a little bit. It could eat up a lot of your time, and you're going to need to and want to devote a lot of time to growing rapidly in these early weeks. Okay, so basically what I'm saying is try to glean as much as possible. Try to put your best foot forward. Try to put as much effort into this as you can, but don't stop to count every grain of sand on the beach. Okay? That's kind of what I'm getting at. Over time, it will be much easier to identify your own weaknesses, your own gaps, your own pitfalls, and it will be easier to identify where your focus really needs to be. What is the important takeaway from a given lesson or exercise? Right now, it's a case of you don't know what you don't know. I totally get it. But you have to trust the process a little bit. All right, I'm going to finish out this navigation section, and then we'll take a look at what we have so far. Once again, I'm not copying, pasting. I am referring constantly to the source code on my right, and I am trying my best to make my code look exactly like theirs. Of course, don't forget, comments are always welcome. What does the display property do? What does inline block mean as a value? That's an excellent question and a really important one. Okay, so that might be something that you want to put some time into. You might want to put some time into understanding the difference between padding left and padding, or the values that follow. What the heck is this? What does text transform do? I guess it's making the text uppercase, but what else can it do? What are the other options I could put here? Things like that. Or here, the width of our wrapper, 80%. 80% of what? 80% of the window? 80% of the body? 80% of the internet? You have no idea. Figure it out. That is a good thing to look up and maybe spend some time on. Okay, but once again, this is about mileage. This is about getting your eyes and fingers used to all of this code. So don't put the onus on understanding just yet. Understanding will come very, very quickly. All right, so that's the site navigation section completed. Let's take a look at our page. Oh, we've got color. The navigation in that logo bit looks perfect. Looks exactly the way we want. So it's really coming together here. We can now see the website being built step by step. That's awesome. Let's keep moving. Almost done. then sidebar div. Let's take a look. Ooh, very close now. As you go through this, you might also not focus on the properties and values, really. You might also instead focus on the selectors. To be honest, these selectors that we're using here are much more important to take away. For example, what is this actually selecting? Well, if you've already done the rest of the pre-work, you should know that it's selecting any element which has the class of sidebar. Any element which has the class of sidebar. Let's take a look in my index. What has the class of sidebar? Well, it's this div here. So this div is going to be what is selected by this selector. Things like that are questions which are very, very good to ask yourself. What is this selecting? What is this selecting? This is selecting any H2 inside of any element with the class of sidebar. So what's going to get selected by it? This will. Any H2 inside of any element with the class of sidebar. Selectors are important. They can definitely be overwhelming, but put some time into understanding them. Put some time into using the correct language to think about them. And don't forget to use the CSS selector interpreter on the codifyacademy.com/learn homepage. It's under the helpful links section and will definitely help you to correctly interpret any CSS selector that you run into. So it might be a good idea to use that interpreter to interpret all of the selectors on this page. And you can even write what they select as comments underneath each one. That would be an excellent exercise in understanding and good habits. Okay, last bit. Dot footer p. All right. Let's take a look. Perfect. It's done. Let me zoom out. We have built the logo site. This is our page, and this is the original. They are identical. Now, if there's a problem here, if something has gone wrong, like let's say we accidentally capitalized the B in sidebar, then what's going to happen is something's not going to look right. Okay, if something doesn't look right, what you want to do is identify what element is that. What element is that? Let me look at my code, let me look at the source code, and let me figure out why mine doesn't look like theirs. So let's jump to the original. I'm going to figure out what element this is. I select it with my inspector, div.sidebar. Okay, let's look at my own. I'm going to do this exact same thing on my page using my inspector. Let's select that sidebar. I can't even seem to grab it, so I may have to do it that way. Well, that doesn't really look right. Right? If I hover on sidebar here, it's a vertical column. If I hover on sidebar here, it's a horizontal row. That's not right. Now I can see already that my class is not quite spelled correctly. That capital B is throwing it off completely. But even if you couldn't spot that, the next step would be to look in Styles. Styles is going to show you all of the CSS which is affecting this element which you have highlighted. So in the Codify original, with sidebar selected, sidebar highlighted, under Styles I see background color, float, min height, width. And it even shows me the selector, dot sidebar. I see none of that on my version. So I know that there's a problem there. So maybe I think, well, do I even have this selector and this CSS? Dot sidebar. Let me jump into my CSS. I'm going to hit Control or Command F and look for dot sidebar. Well, I have it. It says background color, float, min height, width. Okay, it's there. So why is this CSS not applying to my div? Obviously CSS is working because we do have styles on here, but it's just not working on this div. Well, what's my selector? Dot sidebar. So the CSS is going to affect the element with the class of sidebar. Let's take a closer look at my div. Sidebar with a capital B, sidebar with a lowercase b. Oh, I see what I did there. Let me fix that. Save. Reload. Perfect. Okay? This is how you use the inspector to troubleshoot issues with your replicas. Alright, so give it a try, guys. Replicating websites is an excellent way to get some practice. Yeah. Thanks for watching.